Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining Ooh, these glasses are all sorts of wonky today. That's okay. Thanks for joining the live stream with Sneed. Sneed, you ready? Perfect. Gonna bring him on. Thanks for joining me on my live stream today.
Appreciate you having me, Sherry. Thanks for, sending me the invite and getting me here on the show. I know we've had you on my show a couple of times, so I feel like I owe you one at least.
No, I'm stoked for it. I feel like I've been on yours so much, and I'm like, he has lots of good things to say. And one thing I want for my channel this year is just more collaboration. I feel like I haven't done that enough, and it's so beneficial for not just like our audiences, but just like learning from each other and just getting to know other people who do the same thing you do is always helpful. So
Absolutely. It's awesome. I love collabs. Love collabs.
yeah. My live streams aren't as busy as yours, but we're getting there.
They will get busy. It's I don't know how long you've been doing. I've been watching your live streams for probably the last few months.
Mhm.
So, like when I first started doing them, it was 7 viewers, 15, 25. You start to pick up steam, you get to 100. And at that point, you're trying to get to everybody's comments. You're trying to answer questions. It gets pretty rad. So it'll be a handful in no time, I'm sure.
Yeah, I usually it takes a few minutes for everybody to hop on, but we're averaging like 30-ish.
It's pretty good. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
not
I
too
mean,
bad.
you just started kind of like taking it on like a schedule. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
once people get to know Sherry, whistle out this specific window, they'll be ready for you like on schedule.
Yeah. So that's the goal this year, kind of solidifying a more streamlined approach to these live streams. But today is a little different. I've been doing a bunch of live streams this week. I have one more set on Friday, but it's all about CES and all the new info coming out of CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. Have you been keeping it? You didn't attend, right? But have you been keeping up with any of the announcements coming out of there?
So I usually catch recaps, either a YouTube creator that I like, or if I see something show up in the recommended feed, or I'll catch some kind of press release, media release, and
Right.
I'll sort through it, look at some of the details. Just what I really want to see is what brands are represented
Mhm.
and what are they marketing. Is it a new innovative technology? Is it a product? Is it a new feature? Like that's kind of the thing I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because if it's smartphones, then you just wait for the launch events. Like
Right.
Samsung's going to do that tomorrow, and otherwise. So I'm kind of like you, and
Mhm.
then I'm looking for the new stuff that's because it's Consumer Electronics Show. It's not. I don't know how much it's really about smartphones per se. I think it's more about the gadgets and the gizmos.
Yes. The gadgets and gizmos aplenty.
Right.
Yeah, this year they had a bunch of different types of sections to the show. One of the main sections, though, which is what you and I are talking about, is 5G. And they talked about 5G in terms of obviously like cell phones and connectivity, but they also talked a lot about like smart cities, 5G in cars, like 5G, like someone said something super interesting today, like standalone 5G networks,
Mm-hmm.
splicing networks. I need to get more into that. I'm not even sure really what that is yet. But the one thing too that I was digging into a little bit more, and I guess this is a good time to give an overview to people watching. We're going to be talking about obviously like 5G networks for like T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T, but also 5G phones, but budget 5G phones. And I think this would be a good place to start. Is I have been talking about how awesome budget 5G phones are for a second. Like you can get in the beginning, 5G phones are super expensive, over $1,000. Even just as
Mm-hmm.
early as last year,
Right.
it was really difficult for people to hop on the 5G train. But now with all of these budget phones coming out, at first I was like, this is great. But then I was doing a little bit more digging, and some of these budget 5G phones don't even cover the whole spectrum of 5G.
Yeah, it's disappointing, isn't it?
It was so
Yeah.
disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is the point
Mm-hmm.
of having a 5G phone if you can't connect to all of 5G?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it always is with technology. The early adopters got to spend the penny, the expensive, price tags. And
Mm.
then, for people who are on a budget, you don't really have an option until it becomes mainstream. Now, the networks haven't really mainstreamed either. So you
Right.
don't have to feel like you missed out on anything just yet. You're not late to the party. Actually, the party was just announced. So, in my opinion, the party didn't really start. They sent the invites. It's like, all right, 5G's on its way. It's
Yeah.
it's still the very early infancy stages of the technology. But the same thing we saw with LTE, the
Mm,
the humble beginnings of the technology, and then when you look at the entry level phones, even their performance. You just talked about the millimeter wave part, right? Only sub 6 gigahertz included in a lot of these devices. But even if it had millimeter wave, like let's say that it does,
sure.
it may only have a fraction of the bandwidth capability, which
Mm,
means you wouldn't even see the peak speeds that you would with the flagship.
right.
So you're, no, and I don't mean to, I don't want to victimize these phones, but it's almost like they're neutered because they've got these entry level processors. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So instead of 800 megahertz of millimeter wave, if they have it, they're doing 200 megahertz, right? So
Right.
you're essentially talking about 25% of the speed if you have it.
If you if you have it, and if there's like coverage where
Mm-hmm.
you are,
Right.
and yeah, if you can even connect to 5G where you are.
And that's the thing. That's one of those things that you have to understand that you pay to play.
Mm,
You can drive a Honda and it'll cost you $30,000, and you could drive the Benz and you could spend 100,000. You have options out there. So if you
mm.
want the bandwidth and you want to enjoy the incredible speeds, you're just gonna have to pay to play.
Yeah. I Daily Tech Mike in the comments. Budget 5G phones will only have sub 6 gigahertz with low band 5G. Yeah, that's what I initially saw. I hadn't done too much research until CES popped up, but it was I'm going to share my screen real quick. It was the Motorola Ace 5G phone. When I started reading about it, it's just this guy, very plain looking.
Hmm.
But then as I was reading more information, it said, now if you want to get super fast 5G speeds, you probably won't be able to because it only gets sub 6 gigahertz. And I was like, and that was my first little like, then what is the point? And that's kind of when I messaged you a few days ago. I was like, this is ridiculous.
Well, do you find yourself like can you I don't know if you eat steaks, but I kind of like a ribeye. I like a T-bone. I mean, these are some pretty nice cuts. You can get
Yeah,
a flank. A flank's not bad.
sure.
But it's not a ribeye and it's not a porterhouse, and it's not these nice cuts. And that's how I look at some of these phones. I look at them like cuts,
Yeah.
and Angus certified USDA prime, and then there's flanks, and it's okay. But
It's
you just
okay.
have to understand your expectations.
Yeah, and I guess there are some people out there who they wouldn't be able to even realize what they had if they had it. So it's
Sure.
like you can hand me a $500 glass of wine, and I would be like, tastes like the $5 one I had last
And you
night.
you know what? You might be onto something there because in day-to-day usage, can someone feel the difference between 500 megabits per second and 800?
Yeah,
I almost feel like, maybe that's kind of what they're looking at is like, okay, well, I don't know if I'm connected to 100 megahertz of midband or 80,
right.
but I just know it's really fast because the app downloaded in 3 seconds,
Yeah,
or
or yeah,
something
I
like
just
that.
uploaded this video in 2 minutes. And I know
Right,
it's fast.
right. Yeah, that may be all it's required for that person who bought the entry level phone.
Yeah. The nice thing about these phones though are the price. Like the Motorola one I just showed, it's like under $300, like 250 or something crazy. And then TCL announced a new line of budget phones too, which TCL is already known for being a budget friendly company. But they announced a new 5G phone that is the TCL 25G. It's something like $350 or something.
You really can't beat it. I mean, some of these price points are excellent. There's tremendous value. I did a video last year at some point, maybe the end of the summer or in the fall, and I was like, all right, well, the networks aren't mature, but these phones are starting to become more available. So I feel like it's close, right? We're getting close to and we saw mid-rangers in 2020.
Mm,
So all that's really left was the segment for the entry. And honestly, like a lot of people might limp in to 5G. like toe the water a bit. You know what I mean? So they might
Yeah.
come in at that entry point. It's going to work for some people.
Yeah, definitely. And like we were saying, I kind of talked about this a little bit, but my dad, he also wanted 5G, and he's an iPhone user like myself.
Hmm.
And when he got his phone, I was like, Dad, I think we need a new plan to access 5G. And he's like, what? We we don't, you don't just automatically get it. And I think that creates another whole like educational thing too. It's like you don't just automatically get 5G if you have the 5G for your phone.
Yeah, so in these early onset times, I think a lot of people like your dad. He's the average consumer in a way,
Mm-hmm.
right? The expectation is I pay my bill, I need to get whatever services are included. He kind of brings up the point like it should be included. I think the wireless consumer actually deserves 5G under all circumstances. The fact that carriers may monetize it a certain way is concerning, but not surprising. You know what
Right.
I mean? So I think your dad probably was like, "Oh, well, that means we're probably gonna have to upgrade a plan, right?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We ended up
which means
upgrading.
spending more money, though. So he's probably like,
Yeah. Well, luckily, we talked about this yesterday on your show. Luckily, we have so many lines on our plan with AT&T that upgrading adds like a few bucks per line, and so
doesn't hurt,
it's
right?
not a huge loss. Plus, we get
Hmm.
free HBO Max at that point too. So
Yeah,
we're
good
like,
value. Yeah.
not a bad upgrade. And luckily, we're both in places like I'm in Southern California. I get there's five. I open up my window and I get a 5G signal, and I go for a walk and there's like a node downtown where I live now too for AT&T like 5G millimeter wave. So that's been fun to play with as well.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
then Utah has a fair amount of 5G coverage, not a
Okay.
lot, but a fair amount. Daily Tech Mike says offering budget 5G phones for all types of people. Carriers are trying to get consumers out of 4G LTE devices into affordable 5G. Yeah, I think there we go, put you up there. I think that's somewhat the case, but I also don't think carriers are ready to have everybody be ready and excited for 5G because it's not people are going to start getting angry if more and more people sign up. It's not there.
But they sure are marketing it, aren't they?
Oh
The
yeah.
commercials, the ads, the phones, they're pushing it.
Oh yeah, which kind of I want to talk about coverage with the individual carriers real quick because if we go back to October with Verizon started out the month of October with less than 1% of total coverage in the United States. And then after the Apple event, they shoved out a ton of coverage. They got 15% total coverage, I think, in the United States right now. So how quickly are we going to see that coverage grow, do you think? From like Verizon started out so small just a few months ago, and now they're still third. They're behind T-Mobile and AT&T, but they're getting there.
Yeah. So the Verizon situation is unique because Verizon doesn't have any new spectrum that they're bringing to their network outside of millimeter wave at this time. So
Mm,
until the C-band auction finishes and they get some more licenses that they can deploy, they're really in millimeter wave mode only.
mm,
So the problem with millimeter wave nodes is they need an extreme densified tower grid. You're probably to effectively do millimeter wave, you basically need a tower site, one of those three sector node arrangements on the power poles. You
mm,
probably need one of those every other block.
right.
Even if you can use extenders and repeaters, maybe you could stretch it to a few blocks. But it depends on a dense network, right? You need a lot of little sites. So they're doing that from scratch. I mean, you can imagine it's like planting seeds. You plant the
Mm,
seeds and you're waiting for it to sprout. And with midband, it's a different story. You build midband through macro sites, which are large towers that are possibly a couple hundred feet up in the air. They're on buildings and rooftops, so
yeah.
the deployment stretches beyond a mile, right? So you need a tower site every mile or two when you go with the lower frequencies, and you need one every couple blocks in the higher frequencies.
Mm,
So because of that, that's why it seems Verizon is playing from behind, but in actuality, they're just playing it differently for now.
yeah.
Once they get midband, then they're doing like the others are.
Hmm.
So it's and I say this about all the carriers. they're all trying to end up at the same point, but they're all starting at a different point. But the race is the same. The finish line is at the same spot. It's
Yeah.
just Verizon starting with millimeter wave because that's what they have. The other carriers have a little bit of low band, some mid band, like whatever the case may be. But that's why you saw that percentage so small in coverage when it was millimeter wave only. They
Right.
turn on DSS wherever
Yeah, I
they
was
have
gonna
band
say.
5, right? They skyrockets up in coverage, but then the speeds drop because it's low band.
Yes.
So you gotta pick your poison, I guess. You want fast and minimal, or do you want extensive and slow?
hmm
I don't
And
know.
then bringing up like DSS is another interesting point because it gives the illusion that there's 5G in all of these places, and technically, I guess there is, but it's slowed down, and it's not the 5G that you wanting.
Yeah. These are some pretty skinny channels of spectrum, so the speeds are they're pretty meager. The low band 5G leaves a lot to be desired for speed, but it does offer some nice reach.
hmm
The thing is in most developed areas, the low band is an afterthought. I mean, outside of building penetration, right, to work indoors,
Yeah.
you're really looking for mid band because at this point in 2021, our networks have gotten very mature. There's a tower site very close by
Right.
everywhere you go. So now it's about capacity and it's not really about coverage any longer.
Mhm.
So, me personally, I don't get excited about low band 5G. I live in a well developed city. Maybe someone in uh, Smithville, Ohio, is interested in low band 5G. I'm not.
Right.
I'm a Cleveland guy. We have a tower site every mile and a half tops. Like that,
Right.
it's that tight of a grid. So I'm excited about mid band. I'm excited about millimeter wave because I'm in a place where the networks are more mature and more dense.
Right. Right. You're in a city, right? Like a
Hmm.
pretty, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm in the suburbs of two cities. LA is 90 miles north, San Diego is 30 miles south. So I'm kind of on the outskirts, but slowly getting here. Ruben Soul Lease is trying to get our attention. Hello, Ruben. He
Hey,
said
Rubes.
he said I'm trying to super chat you guys, but there is no option. There is not that option on my channel right now. But I'll get it. If you guys want to super chat me, I'll freaking figure that out.
Yeah, go ahead. Go. Yeah, we'll get you. It's a monetization setting within your YouTube settings when you go to your creator settings, and you can activate super chats. It's pretty nice. The people, they love you, Sherry. Let
I
let
know.
them let them splurge on you for doing these live streams.
I'm still just a YouTube baby. I need to figure all this information out.
I'd be more than willing to help you out with that. No problem.
You're my YouTube guru. Thank you, Sneed son.
Sure, young grasshopper.
Mr. Guest is asking, is there a third party like map to see where millimeter wave is? Hyped to see how fast it is.
Yeah, you got them for each carrier. You gotta, go to their website, download it or click it open. It might be a interactive map. I know Verizon's has gotten better.
Yeah.
So it was hard to read initially. You can access it there. I think AT&T's has gotten better as well. T-Mobile's is actually pretty good. They just don't have much millimeter wave.
Right.
Right. So the maps, when 5G plus, millimeter wave, ultra wideband, the maps are pretty good, but there's just not a lot of it.
This is a good time for me to pimp out my sites map.
Go ahead,
We don't
pimp it
have
out.
we don't have specific like 5G information, but every 3 months we get all of the zip code information where coverage is at in each city in the states. So let me share my screen real quick. I can show you guys. And this is how I tell everybody to check coverage before they get a carrier is by checking out this coverage map we have. So if you go to our site, we'll just show 5G for AT&T. You can change it from each carrier, but like this is where 5G is for AT&T across the country. It makes it easy to see. It's up here and like really high in the Northeast, and Florida looks killer, in Texas as well. Then you can we'll switch to Verizon and see what Verizon has. Unclick. So right now, this is what we have for any 5G coverage for Verizon. And we work with the carriers to get this information and third-party map makers for this information. But you can check that out at whistleout.com and then just click in the upper right-hand corner for coverage info. But
Nice.
you can also check on the carriers' sites. Although sometimes the carriers, they're like, we have this amount of coverage everywhere, and it's like they're overlapping coverage that they share if you're out of range of your own carrier. So sometimes they can
Roaming agreements, right? Yeah. Yep.
yeah, they can be a little misleading. The maps I just showed you are just strictly their own coverage, not like their shared coverage that they all have deals with each other. Like if my guy comes out of my zone, he can have yours.
Yep. They got those roaming partners, roaming agreements that keep people covered, but it's
Yes.
not their native, so they really can't claim it as their own.
Yes. Jim Mediri, you're asking what site that was. That was whistleout.com. Let me send you this address. It's just like the address to the map. Should get you there. Or just go to whistleout.com/cell phones and get to the upper right-hand corner and search for the map. And send that to you too. But yeah, that's where you can check coverage if you're interested for whistleout.com. But let's get back to the stop pimping out the website.
Sorry, that's what they pay you the big bucks for. Sure, go ahead.
That's what I get paid for. I sent you a study earlier today, Sneed. It was from JD Power, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I kind of want to dissect it and talk about it a little bit. It was saying that more than 1/3 of wireless customers say they do not know which carrier has the best 5G service, and 20% say they do not know anything about 5G. What's your experience with? I feel like our audiences are pretty in the know. Like people who are watching our channels already know lots of this information. The struggle is getting it to the normal population when they're trying to make these decisions for themselves.
So, the two different platforms. Those that are seeking it on YouTube, who are, watching creators and YouTube channels dedicated to network technologies, they're getting a deep dive into a lot of this stuff. I mean, I know that you don't always include the most technical of terms, but you thoroughly cover each of the carriers' offers and their networks. That's 90% more than any average consumer would be ready for, right?
Yeah.
So they would watch, Whistle Out video and they would learn a lot, right? They would watch an SMT video and learn a lot. What they see is a commercial. They see the AT&T commercial on Saturday. They see the Verizon commercial on Sunday. And whatever the carrier says on that commercial is their exposure to 5G understanding.
Yes.
So if the carrier says we have 90% coverage and 90% of the country to 90% of the people, now the customer's thinking 90, 90, 90. Oh, they have a lot of stuff. They got a lot of 5G. What is 5G? I don't know. I guess I need it. They're telling me I need it. So then they go into the store. Does the iPhone have 5G? I'll take it. Give me 2 of them. They don't know. I have 2 kids. Let me get 2 of those, and let me get a purple one and a blue one.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it goes. So the problem with that is you're eating from the hand, right? So if what they're telling you, you're trusting in that, you can't trust the carrier. Trusting the carrier is like trusting a car salesman.
Yes.
If they tell you it's the best deal they can give you, they're lying. Like you literally could squeeze them for the next 2 hours and they'd still be lying to you.
Yeah.
And that's how the business is. So
you know what I like that you've done in the past? You were like, there's a new commercial out. Let's dissect this. And you're like, this is true. This is not true. This is kind of true.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Giving people like the one up. You're like, ah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, I call the carriers like a dumpster. You have to sift through the trash to get to like what's real. There's a lot of fluff. There's a lot of, tomfoolery. It's just, it's like a mask. You have to uncover and really see what it is, because you'll get the service and commit to a 2-year installment plan on a phone, only to be devastated by a lack of coverage or performance.
Right.
So I respect those that investigate.
Yes.
And I respect those that watch the content, ask the questions, because when you take it at face value, I mean, I got a bridge for sale in Brooklyn, if you believe these carriers, and I got an oceanfront property in Idaho, if you're interested, there's just, you have to look into it yourself, and you got to investigate.
Totally. I feel like people, well, when I was growing up, I specifically remember thinking to myself, maybe I was made to report on telecom information. I was like, they all say they're number one, but who's really number one?
And then that question becomes subjective. Where are you?
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
are you in Southern California? Are you in the northeast part of the U.S.? You know, it's all different.
yeah. Someone in here just asked who's the best. Um, or okay, no, Jason asked, when will T-Mobile turn on mid-band 5G? Um, I don't
They
know if I
have, they have,
yeah.
they have. So
Jason,
yeah,
you got it. You're just not in the right spot for it, man.
yeah. It's going to be a big piece of what they do in 2021 moving forward. The mid band
Yeah.
5G is it's on its way. Hang tight.
And then someone asked who's the best or something like that. I can't find it, but someone gave a really succinct answer, and I want to highlight it. Okay, here we go. T-Mobile has the most 5G coverage. Verizon millimeter wave is the fastest, and that is the best, probably description of 5G. Just a really simple, easy one. Where would you say AT&T falls in this?
They're very, very similar to T-Mobile's 5G. When it comes to like the low band 5G, they use 850 megahertz band 5. T-Mobile's using 600 megahertz band 71. They're very similar, low band. The speeds won't knock your socks off, but it'll say 5G in the upper right hand corner if that makes you feel good.
Yeah, seriously. No, I have I think AT&T might be the worst with this with their 5GE, then 5G, then 5G plus. It's like just can we just not be so it's so convoluted and confusing and makes people think they have something when they don't. I have tons of friends who are like, "Oh, I have 5G. This says so in my upper right-hand corner." I'm like, "Is it 5GE?" And they're like, "Yeah,
There's only one person to blame, and it's the carriers.
it is. Totally."
Yeah, yeah,
That's why AT&T got smashed when it came out.
yeah,
People
yeah. They
were
called it
angry.
5G evolution, and it's a great connection. It's really
Right.
fast. In most cases, what they call 5GE is a five carrier aggregation, a combination of, you know, five or more channels simultaneously. So it's got great throughput,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not 5G, you
Not
know.
5G.
So, but they call it 5GE, and the Better Business Bureau, the NAD, the National Advertising, they're like, hey, buddy, you know, you better cut this out. This is not 5G, and they're like, well, you know, it's really 5G evolution. So we're getting there. You know what I mean?
So we'll keep it.
Right. So I'm not technically a billionaire, but I'm probably going to be in a couple years. So I'm just going to call myself a billionaire right now. You know?
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I feel my net worth is. And that's
Yeah.
what it will be. It's like on Shark Tank. Like,
Hmm.
we think our company is worth $5 million,
Sure.
even though
Yeah.
we've only sold $100 worth of stuff.
Yep.
Trill Boy Gaming 5GE is fast, but not 5G at all. Yeah, I think we agree with you there. And someone else had a good comment, but that's okay. We'll highlight it later. 5GE is LTE Advanced Pro. I'm not sure.
It is advanced LTE, which,
Yeah.
you know, essentially we're talking about multiple carriers. Each carrier is a channel of spectrum, right? Transmitting and, you know, broadcasting to phones.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if, you know, you have a single carrier, one channel is connecting to your phone, it might be 10 megahertz of bandwidth, right?
Right.
A second channel of 10 megahertz of bandwidth doubles your bandwidth, right? So 5G would give you essentially maybe five carriers, which sounds awesome, right? It could be
Yeah.
50 megahertz of spectrum. You might get 200 or 300 megabits per second, you know?
Right. For sure. Tim Ball, I'm not sure if I agree with this comment, but we'll discuss. Until we have standalone 5G later on this year, none of the 5G we have is true 5G. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but because I mean, I've gone out and I've tested some serious 5G speeds, and so
Well,
have you, Sneed.
So what he's kind of covering is the actual equipment on the tower sites. So he's getting very technical, and he's not wrong from that standpoint. Millimeter wave is mostly 5G, like 90%. Like the
Okay.
equipment, the technologies put into it, it's like 90% 5G. There's still components of it that are required as LT backbone. For example, the uplink is typically coming from LTE.
Okay.
Right. So, but the millimeter wave downlink is massive size channel 5G channels. Right. So he's kind of right. Now, once you get into standalone, it basically says you don't need LTE anymore to run the 5G. Now,
Oh, sure. Okay.
so now it's completely 5G. He's getting pretty technical. That's what he's
Yeah.
doing.
Come on, Tim. Who do you think you're dealing with here?
But you have tested some incredible millimeter wave. I have seen your testing. It's very impressive.
Yeah. It was when I went to do that. It was I did not know what to expect fully.
Was it eye opening? Like you were shocked?
Yes, I was.
I remember your first test. You literally were like, "What just happened on my phone? Like what?" And that's exactly what happened to me. I connected it, so my expectation it was going to be fast.
Yeah.
And then I saw gigabit speed. I'm like, "What? Like this isn't a fiber cable connected to my phone."
Right.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. I went down to which is kind of funny. I went down to Mira Mesa, California, which is Mira Mesa is a decent sized city, but it's also the home of Qualcomm's campus.
Yeah.
The nodes, here's Qualcomm and here's the nodes. I was like, something's happening here. Like this is no accident.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the only people who don't understand what millimeter wave technology is there are people who haven't tested it or connected to it. Like some people think, okay, well, there's not much of it. It doesn't really travel indoors. You know, it has these limitations. But there's something empowering about knowing that you have connected to something that can potentially connect tens of thousands of people simultaneously.
Totally.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, imagine you're at the I'm trying to think of a big event that might happen in SoCal. Like imagine you're at LAX and they've got millimeter wave.
Or like Comic-Con.
Sure. Everybody's connected. There's not going to be the bottoming out. You're not going to disconnect. You're not going to be stuck without a signal. It's going to open up the opportunity to keep traffic off of the other stuff too.
Yeah.
Right. So to keep the low band and the mid band congestion free. You know, so look, it's really a future technology that I think a lot of people just don't get it yet. You and me have tested it. We know it, but they haven't seen it yet. Right.
Yeah. One interesting thing that happened at CES this year, and I was laughing pretty hard. Verizon had a keynote on the first night. And actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up my Twitter and show this.
You notice
video.
that trend, Sherry? They were at Apple leading the way. They're at CES leading the way. Verizon is serious about this 5G thing.
And they want everyone to know that theirs is fastest and that theirs is the best. But what they were doing was kind of showing what 5G can do. You know, they brought out some really intense drones, and they're like, 5G will bring us drone delivery, and they did like a UPS delivery, and they did a bunch of other things. They connected with the Smithsonian, and they gave us like VR, AR walkthroughs of the Smithsonian. Like, you can do this with 5G, and they're like, but now let's test it out for ourselves, and let's give you a taste of what it is.
Right.
And it was hilarious because we're all working from home. We all either have crappy cable internets, most of us. Maybe some people have satellite internet, depending on where they are. Yeah. And then maybe a handful of people have fiber who are attending this conference digitally. But what they did was they were like, here's our QR code, scan it and join the live show. Come into this and enjoy it with us. And I'm going to share my Twitter feed and show you this video because it was so silly. They're like, this is what 5G can do. And it totally flopped. So it was this concert with the Black Pumas, I think is what it was called. But that's
not the same as the Black Eyed Peas, right?
No.
Okay. Like Will.i.am and them, it's not those guys.
Exactly. So this is kind of what it looked like, which is kind of interesting. But they have those cameras on the side, and you're supposed to be able to switch the camera view from concert view to concert view, and it froze. As soon as I got in there, it froze. I was able to like move my camera around in my room and be like, wow, I'm in here. But the music stopped, the movement stopped, and as soon as I switched cameras, the whole thing broke down. It shut down.
Dang, backfired.
And I was like, this was a decent idea.
Right.
Like, the thought behind showing everybody how you can be connected through 5G was awesome, and here's what it can do. And then nobody could get in. Not everybody. I was one of the only people who could scan that QR code and watch this VR concert because it was so packed. It was so full of people trying to jump in there. And then when I was in there, it
sounds to me like the app kind of crashed.
The app, maybe the website.
Okay. Yeah. So it probably wasn't the actual Verizon connection. It sounds like the ecosystem of getting people in there was like was bottlenecking or
Bottom,
couldn't
yeah,
handle whatever, you know.
which in the future probably won't be a problem with 5G, but
Right.
they just could not show what it was capable of
Fail,
when
right?
they were like, this is what 5G can do, and it just totally flopped. And
Yeah.
I was dying laughing. I was also watching it on my AT&T connection, which also made me laugh. But
We've seen this happen before. Steve Jobs with the iPhone, like you're holding it wrong, and everybody get off the Wi-Fi, and these
yeah,
things happen all the time.
yes, it was a fun idea, but yeah, it just didn't work out. Someone asked earlier. I think we'll both have a similar answer to this, but it was: is the 5G connection worth getting as upgrading your phone to have the access? Here it is. Is 5G a big enough improvement that it's worth buying a new phone to have access? Now, I'll start. It just depends if you have 5G in your area and if you would be connecting to it regularly. Otherwise, no. And that's the thing, you have to look and see if there's 5G coverage where you are. What would you say, Sneed?
So, I don't know what type of phone Jake has
Mm,
because if Jake, for example, has an iPhone,
right.
if he has an iPhone 10 or older, it's a slam dunk. You upgrade to the new iPhone. You're
Mhm.
not only getting a new 5G antenna system and modem, you're also getting an improved LTE modem. You're getting a better camera. You're getting a better phone overall. So it's a collective. If you're not ready to spend money, well, the 5G is irrelevant. You're not ready to spend the money, you
Yeah.
know? But if the question is it worth it to specifically buy a phone to get connected to 5G? If you are a T-Mobile customer and they are deploying low band 5G that you can benefit from, it's going to help your signal, it's going to help your speeds.
Yeah.
Because there are some carriers whose LTE network is starting to get congested in certain places. A new 5G connection could be the difference between usable internet on your phone and congested internet on your phone.
Yeah.
So if you have T-Mobile, I say upgrade. If you have Verizon, I say only if you're in a millimeter wave market.
Mhm.
You know, if you're in
Mhm.
an AT&T market that has good 5G and speeds, it's worth the upgrade. Absolutely.
Yeah. What I did, I had an iPhone 10. I have AT&T. I really wanted to upgrade my phone.
It was
Saw
a
the
perfect
12,
time for you, I
liked
think.
it, upgraded
Yeah.
to the 12, and I have 5G around me, so it's great. Carlos S. Tech
My
has his name
brother.
for you, Jake. We'll pull it up. He says, I would wait another year unless your phone is old or it's slowing down, then to do it now if you can hold off towards the end of this year. I would do that because 5G is not ready unless you are close to a millimeter wave. Kind of
Pretty
putting
good.
both our little opinions
Yeah.
together into one
Yep.
little answer. Thanks, Carlos.
Yep.
Um, Jim Green bringing an auto to it will highlight that. My car will need 5G just like my phone someday. Hello back. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely another thing with all this 5G is that it has so much power to connect everything
Yeah.
from like homes to cars to cities. I mean, smart cities is going to be a thing soon. Some cities are already smart. I think Sacramento is working towards becoming a fully,
San Jose,
or San
Sacramento.
Jose, yeah, being
Yeah.
fully smart, which is has lots of implications into safety and tons of other things we could dive into. But yeah, 5G will be everywhere soon. Dang, I think we're about ready to shut this down. If anybody has any questions for Sneed or I before we log off, type them in there. Otherwise, I want to finish out this JD Power survey with another cool finding they had. Um, More than half of Americans say they will not pay anything extra to get 5G service. That doesn't surprise me.
No, not at all. People hanging on. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I'll just wait for it to get better," or "I don't want to be an early adopter. That's expensive."
Mhm.
To buy the new phone if you're not ready or whatever the case may be. But especially when people don't know what the technology does for them, right? They might be hesitant and they might be a little apprehensive about it. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of giggled to myself. It was started. I don't know. It probably started at the beginning of 2020. All the carriers were like, for a limited time only, if you switch to this plan, we'll give you 5G for free. And now, I don't think anyone's really ever charged for 5G. They've taken off that limited time offer, and it's just like this plan now includes 5G if you want it, which I think was probably a smart move for them.
Yeah, I think they tested the water. They wanted to see if they could get away with it. You know, could they monetize this thing early on and maybe it would have worked out? But you know, I'm kind of glad it didn't because I don't really want to pay for 5G. I have an older plan on my Verizon account,
Hmm.
so I actually have to pay for ultra wideband, right?
Yeah.
But because I have an older plan and it's an add-on, but it gives me HD, it gives me 1080p video, so I gladly pay it because it
Mm,
upgrades my video playback and then I also get ultra wideband. If
totally.
that wasn't the case, I don't think I'd pay it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That's fair. Trillboy Gaming, he typed this earlier, but we didn't get to it, so we'll get to it now, dude. This is for you, Sneed. Is there access differences between postpaid and prepaid 5G on AT&T? Sneed can answer. I have AT&T.
Sherry can too, actually.
Uh,
Yeah.
I see mid-band is live but can't connect to it. I see NR band 2 and 66 in the Samsung app. Sneed?
So the access between postpaid and prepaid, it it's they're both very good. In my experience, I think AT&T offers one of the most capacitive experiences when it comes to cellular networking. It's really fast. It's very available. It's very reliable. It's really good. The thing about postpaid is the QCI difference. So it's literally a network priority access thing. Postpaid, obviously, you're at like QCI 8, QCI 7, QCI 6 if it's, you know, business and elite.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference between them is going to be some throughput. Like it's going to be faster if you're on postpaid, a little bit slower on prepaid. The 5G is also different. I don't know if prepaid offers 5G plus. So I know the postpaid does for sure, but I don't know about the prepaid. So there
I,
could be something there.
I think the unlimited prepaid plus, or I forget what it's called. I believe it does have
Okay.
5G
So
access.
one of the prepaid plans does.
Yes, yes.
So the other 7 don't.
I don't think so. I think only the unlimited prepaid plans do.
Told you Sherry knew it. See, I didn't know that. Sherry did. You guys got to know who's
Might be
who
wrong.
over
I
here.
don't know. I'm gonna own it. I'm gonna say, yeah, I think only one of the prepaid plans has
I think
5G.
you're right. I think I saw some literature or some brochures at a Target or Walmart once, and I was just reading through it. I think you're right.
Yeah. Um, AT&T. Carlos says AT&T does offer 5G plus. Yeah. Well, cool. See if there's anything else I wanted to say. No, I think I'm good. I think lots of our audience overlaps, but if you haven't subscribed to Sneed's channel yet, check it out. Also, definitely check him out on Twitter as well. We're both pretty active on that platform. We'd love to have all you guys check us out in both places. Yeah, Sneed, thanks for hopping on and joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was
I
fun.
was nervous. I was so nervous. I'm like,
Nervous.
yeah, I'm like, Sneed's way smarter than me.
But Sherry, you rock my live streams all the time. Like it's become like a weekly spot. I don't know why you'd be nervous.
That's
Yeah,
true. I don't know. It's just the first time having you on. I was like, don't mess this up, Sherry.
I'm definitely not smarter. I just, you know, maybe I'm just a little bit more technical, but I wouldn't necessarily call that smarter. I mean, you've got a wealth of knowledge on the material you cover. I mean, I watch your channels to learn more. So.
Oh,
I learn
cool.
from you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, I'm sure we'll have you on again, and if anything, I'm sure I'll be on one of your shows again too. But thanks for joining me. Thanks everybody for watching and asking questions. Really awesome questions today, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of the week, guys. See ya.